What is going on, New York Giants fans? Hit Squad back at it with another video, and we got episode 6 of the Big Blue Topic. I'm joined by my brother Rod, the Big Blue Corner. Uh, we got Giant Opinion Sports. He'll be joining us in a little bit. We are going to open the lines to you guys as well. I will be dropping the link so we can talk New York Giants football. But if you haven't already, and if you're new to the channel, please join the Hit Squad. Hit that subscribe button. Pick six that like button for me. You can also find Big Blue Corner's YouTube channel and Giant Opinion Sports YouTube channel in the description below. But before we get into this show, Rod, my man, how you doing, man? How you living?
Hi, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, man. Can't wait to get inside, get into these topics. A lot of things going on with the Giants right now. Not too much, but just enough to where it's got you wondering, really what direction that this team is heading in, based off of all the moves and everything they've done this offseason. So can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I agree with you 100%. I see that we got some people in the chat. Neymar, what is going on? Mark the Blue Giant, thanks for stopping by. Jaden, thank you for stopping by, man. Appreciate you guys showing love. But let's get into this show. So, we got some news, as you guys may have heard. The New York Giants have converted $8.965 million of cornerback Adoree Jackson's contract into a signing bonus today. Now, they also added a voided year. So, with that, they created $5.98 million in cap space. Now, you guys know that the Giants were one of the few teams in this league with under $1 million in cap space recently. So this is definitely going to free up, some of the cap. On top of that, I think that we can expect more moves like this coming with certain players that really eat up a lot of our roster. But Rod, how do you feel about this, man? I mean, I personally like it. I'm not surprised, but I personally like it.
I mean, I'm not really surprised. I think at this point, you can pretty much say that Dave Gettleman left us in a real shitty position with the outrageous spending that he did in the offseason, just the contracts galore, and just how everything was set up. It's like you really put this team into literally, it was a bind. And, Joe
Yeah,
Shane basically said, in no, uncertain terms, that this is going to be a very difficult year starting off as far as the offseason. Don't expect any big, huge signings because we didn't have the money to do it. And it just to show you how much we didn't have any money, you hinted on one of the few teams. We were literally the only team that was under $1 million in cap space, the only one. And
yeah.
I'm not surprised. I'm truly not surprised that we had to literally, restructure contracts, and it may even take doing maybe one more if we don't get Bradbury traded. We may have to go and either restructure Bradbury or Leonard Williams. So
Yeah.
I like, although Joe Shane said he didn't want to do it. I didn't think he really had a choice based off of the simple fact he's not being able to move Bradbury as of yet. And at this point, you got to do what you got to do. They obviously see Adoree as far as the long term,
hmm
for this team,
Yeah.
or else they wouldn't even have touched that contract. So you know,
Absolutely. And you make a great point there. I think that if they didn't see Adoree Jackson as not just a fit in this defense, but maybe a little bit of a long-term plan, I don't think they would have done this. I think that they would have maybe restructured a player like Leonard Williams, who I'm going to highlight this comment by Jaden real quick. He says Leo is next. I think, yeah, and I agree with you there. I think that he could be the next domino to fall that gets a restructure, or maybe they convert some of his money into a signing bonus. I could absolutely see that happening. What's going on, Nikki? Thank you for stopping by. If you haven't already, join the Hit Squad. Hit that subscribe button. You can find Big Blue Corner and Giant Opinion Sports YouTube channels in the description below. Thanks for stopping by. DMAC, I feel the same way that you feel. If I'm being honest with you, I really do feel the same way. When you just look at not just from a financial standpoint, but just how many players do we have that are on our roster from the first year that Dave Gettleman became the New York Giants general manager, or even in his second year? I mean, it's just he did not draft well. We all know that. He had some players that I guess you could say he hit on because they're on other teams and got extended contracts. At the same time, I'm not the biggest Dave Gettleman fan. I never have been. Um, and I'm glad that he's gone, man. I agree with you, Mark. We'll definitely get to that promised land soon. Um, but yeah, no, to go back to what you were saying, Big Blue Corner, I agree with you 100%. And in my honest opinion, I think that Adoree Jackson is a player that he could come in, and if he could stay healthy, which I thought last year, I mean, my expectations for him last year were exceeded, in my opinion. But I think that if he could stay healthy, you got a guy that really fits Wink's defense very well. And I thought that he was our best corner that we had last year, even though he came in to be that 1B corner to James Bradbury. Now, I think that we could all suspect, James Bradbury to get, traded at this point. Where we still don't know yet. You hear rumblings with the Chiefs. I know that Joe Shane had came out and said that he would like to have James Bradbury on the roster going forward. Will that happen? I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, do you think, Rod, that maybe they extend him for another year and they lower his cap hit if maybe come draft time and they don't feel that they're getting the compensation that they like?
I mean, at some point, you gotta. The question that everybody is wondering is whether or not he is going to be able to fit Wink's system, and he took a bit of a step back last year. 2021. I'm sorry, 2020. He did an amazing job. He was literally a excellent QB. I mean, quarterback for us. But he took a little bit of a step back, whether it was injury related or just for the simple fact, how Patrick Graham's system was, the bend don't break. You know, that ended up breaking. Maybe he was, in a bad way, he was part of that, and just how the defense played throughout the year. They did get better, but they started off real slow. I
Yeah,
think
I agree.
you have you have to ask the question is whether or not he fits that system. Wink relies heavily on putting those cornerbacks out there on the island. Okay, he manufactures a pass rush based off of the fact if you got those cornerbacks and they're out there and they can handle what they have to handle, well, then at some point your defense is going to be able to get to the quarterback, create havoc, get sacks, you name it. Does Bradbury fit that? And that's going to be the very big question if we do decide to go forward him in the 2022 season.
Yeah, and you make a very good point there. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure if Bradbury fits, the scheme that Wink Martindale wants to establish here. I mean, I think that Bradbury, you look at a team like the Chiefs, I mean, you look at a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, if they don't get Stephon Gilmore, I mean, I think a lot of teams are waiting to see where Gilmore goes at this point, because I think that whatever team loses out on Stephon Gilmore may be the team that's potentially interested in James Bradbury. And look, it's not that James Bradbury is a scrub. It's not that his production was down. In my opinion, I thought last year I thought he played okay. In my opinion, I think that a lot of fans had high expectations due to the fact that he had such a solid season in 2020 that honestly, I mean, you can make a very good argument was probably his best season in his career as a player in the NFL, even when he was with the Carolina Panthers. And in my opinion, again, I don't think that he's a player that you just cut. I don't think that he's a player that if we keep him for another year, a lot of fans are going to be complaining about. I really don't think so. But again, to go back to your point, Big Blue Corner, you can't you don't know if this guy is going to fit Wink's defense, and I'm not necessarily sure if he does.
Well, Nikki makes a good point down there at the bottom. She, says you can't put all the blame on the defense when the offense couldn't stay on the field. You're
It's
absolutely
true.
right. That was the whole part of that bend don't break defense. If you know that that offense isn't doing anything, the defense is going to be on that field more than you want. So that bend don't break ideology is going to come into play more than anybody would even have thought of at that point. You saw it in 2020. You really saw it in 2021 because the offense couldn't do anything. And that defense, say what you want to say about it, it kept us in some games, but the thing about it is that at some point, those guys are going to get tired. You're leaving them out there, and the offense is not literally producing anything. At some point, that defense is going to struggle, and we saw it. It struggled in numerous games. So, as far as Bradbury is concerned, I mean, like I said, the question, that main question, is whether or not he fits Wink's system. Can you put Bradbury out there on an island and he not get beat? He
Yeah,
does his job. He's a lockdown corner. Can he do it? He thrives mainly in a zone defense. Winks is cover zero, cover one, and it's a lot of man coverage to generate a pass, to be able to manufacture a pass rush.
hmm yeah,
Can he do it? You know, at some That's the question Joe Shane and I'm pretty sure that Dable and Wink is going to be asking themselves, pretty much every day leading up to the draft. And at some point, maybe he could be part of a trade package during, maybe come draft day. Who knows? But that's a question that they're gonna have to really, really sit back and ponder
yeah,
because based off of his play, I honestly think that he doesn't really fit it. I don't think
yeah.
he's a lockdown corner. I think Adoree Jackson is a better lockdown corner than he is as far as man coverage. But that's the question that we're gonna have to see. Maybe we go forward with him in 2022. Maybe he shines. Who knows? But I certainly hope that at some point we're able to get a trade package where we're able to get him to a different team. Who knows what we're going to do as far as a draft if we do get rid of if we do trade him. But that opens up a lot as far as the cap space, what we're able to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we have to get to a point where, not only can we sign our draft players, but we're gonna have to sign some players that are gonna be on the practice squad. Then you got to worry about in season when you may potentially have to elevate practice squad players. On top of that, they may want some money for in season moves. I mean, I know that Shane said that he didn't want to, restructure some of these contracts and kick the can down the road. But at the same time, I mean, some of these contracts, man, I think that the Giants may be put in a position where they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to restructure, if not kind of do what they did with the Dory Jackson on one of these contracts. And again, to go back to Jaden's comment, it could be Leonard Williams. I don't think that it would be a player like Kenny Galladay, in my honest opinion. I don't think that Kenny Galladay after next year will be with the New York Giants. I mean, if I'm just being honest with you. Now, I mean, I'd be shocked if they restructured his contract and let's say, they kick the can down the road on his contract compared to Leonard Williams. But again, I think that, they're in a position right now where they're going to do what they can to get, to get some money. I mean, there's some players that they can cut like Darius Slayton, Nick Gates, um, really just to name a few to where, they could save some money there. I think Darius Slayton's like 2.5 million. Nick Gates, I think it's either 2.5 or 3 million. So, I mean, there's going to be ways that they could create cap space, but at the same time, I mean, trading Bradbury, that's definitely going to help. And you gotta hope that the New York Giants can pull something out. And I think that we will. I think as we get closer to the draft, if not, I don't be shocked, y'all, if come draft day, they're looking to trade him and he gets traded. I mean, also don't be shocked if, again, if we end up keeping Bradbury, because again, Shane may look to give this guy, another year, considering the fact that we're gonna have a lot of money next year. We can kind of afford to take the dead cap hit at that point. So, I mean, it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens. But Mark the Blue Jai, I agree with you. He says I don't think he fits. Honestly, yeah, I don't. And that's why I look at a team like Kansas City and I look at a team like Las Vegas. Honestly, more than anything, I think that he would fit a lot better with Las Vegas just because he has familiarity with Patrick Graham and how Patrick Graham likes to run his defense. But in my opinion, I think that his time is up. And I'm one of those people that I don't think that, you go into the draft and again, if a Thibodeau isn't there and you feel like taking a sauce, will I get upset? I mean, no. But I'm not personally in favor of taking one of these corners in the first round. I'm more of an edge rusher and offensive lineman myself in the first round. DMAC, I agree. He says Bradbury would do well in Kansas City. I think he would too. I think Spags would be able to use him pretty well. And that secondary is looking a little weak. I know that they went and signed Justin Reed, I believe, from the Texans. But I mean, he doesn't replace Tyron Matthew, but they're going to need some more secondary help, especially when you look at how that division is panning out. Jaden, I could see that if Bradbury is traded, and we don't get a player like Sauce Gardner or a player like Derek Stingley, I think that Adoree will be our cornerback one next year, and I don't have a problem with that whatsoever, due to the fact that I thought that he was our best corner that we had last year. So what is going on, Easy3? Thank you for stopping by, man. If you'd like to come on, I'm actually about to drop the link in the chat. I'd love to talk some draft with you, get your thoughts on the Adoree Jackson news. But you and I, we're on the same page here. This, for me, honestly, if I can't get Evan Neal, because that's the number one player I want in this draft, Kayvon Thibodeau is number two for me, that I want the most in this draft. I think that Kayvon Thibodeau is a New York Giant through and through. I mean, the way that he carries himself, the attitude that he has, his game, his style of play. I mean, it just screams New York Giants when I watch this guy on film. And look, don't get me wrong. I mean, I know that Jermaine Johnson's been linked to the Giants. Um, I know that prior to Ojabo getting injured, there was some mocks having us pick up Ojabo in a trade back scenario. But I think that Kayvon Thibodeau, in my opinion, I still have him as number one in this draft. I know that Aiden Hutchinson is there. I think he's the 1B. I'm not even putting him at two. I think he's the 1B. But I think Kayvon Thibodeau, man, if if five teams pass up on him, and I'm talking, and I'm gonna throw Carolina in there too, the New York Giants aren't gonna do that. They may not pick him with that fifth pick, but they could possibly pick him up with that seventh pick, considering the fact that Carolina either needs offensive tackle or they need a quarterback. So I really like our chances of getting Kayvon. What do you think, Big Blue Corner? What are you thinking about Kayvon Thibodeau to the Giants?
I'll be honest. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't mind Thibodeau. That's the truth. I wouldn't mind it. The problem is that whatever we do as far as Bradbury is concerned, the question is, we get rid of Bradbury, you're going to elevate Aaron Robinson into that position. So you're going to need another cornerback. Now, I know a lot of guys probably aren't sold on Sauce Gardner, but I did read some reports as far as Derek Stingley Jr. He's fully healed off the List Frank, and he's going to be participating in all the drills for his pro
Yep.
day.
Yeah.
So, depending on if if the Giants go down and they want, go to his pro day, what's going to happen as far as what they see with that? I don't necessarily think that going cornerback is a bad idea in the first round. And here's my take, and here's my reason why with that. If they view any of these cornerbacks as a Darrell Revis type cornerback, a lockdown corner that you can put him on an island and let him do his thing, then I'm all for it. Because if we know what Bradbury, if Bradbury is not going to fit this system, you have to be able to bring in a cornerback that fits that system. Now, can we get him in the later rounds? Possibly. But it's a big drop off once you start getting into the second and third rounds and you start going after these second and third tier cornerbacks. It's a drop off. You know, Sauce Gardner, uh, Derek Stingley, a couple other names past my memory right now, but it's a drop off.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
main
It
thing that we,
is.
but and that also has to do a lot with how Wink's system is. Again, he manufactures a pass rush. He does not literally rely on a defensive end, an edge rusher, to get in there. He creates it based off of his schemes. I mean, you can probably put at least four, depending on how. I mean, I've seen it where in Baltimore he was running three, four, and five linebackers on the field. That's how he was creating a pass rush. He was having
Hmm.
a lot of cornerbacks on the field manufacturing a pass rush. Everything is going to be contingent on that. So, would I be upset if they went a cornerback in the first round? Uh, maybe I'm 50-50 on it. Depends on whether or not they view it as an absolute need based off of whatever they choose to do with Bradbury. If Bradbury is here, then I don't have a problem with going with Kayvon Thibodeau. He's got a good motor. All right. A
Hmm.
lot of people have questioned whether or not, he really wants to play, if his heart or his mind is in it. Based off of what I've seen, people said that he took a year off, last year, based off of the simple fact he was going high in the draft. The kid's got talent. The kid's got a high motor. Let's see what he can do. You know, that college, the college games that's over with. Let's see what he can do in the pros. That's the main thing. So I wouldn't be too far upset with that. Wouldn't be too far.
Yeah. No, no, and I agree with you, man. I think that he's the New York Giant through and through. I know that. Look, let's be real, man. It's while it's not unlikely that he falls, I mean, it's still possible that he falls. I think again, one of these there's going to be a shakeup in this draft. I mean, I think that the Lions are way too quiet right now, in my opinion. Houston, we have no idea which way that they're going to go. They could look to get Kyle Hamilton. They could look to take a player like Akeem Aquanu or Neal if they fall. If you want to really build around Davis Mills, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how this draft plays out. But we're gonna get to the chat, man. Again, thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Miz, how you doing, man? Thanks for stopping by. If
How's it
you'd like
going, man?
if you'd like to join the stream, man, if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see the link in the chat, man. Giant opinion, not a problem at all, man. Definitely understands. But definitely, man, no problem, man. What's going on, Super Taj? Thank you for stopping by, man. If you'd like to join the stream, I'll
How's it
actually
going,
drop
Taj?
I'll drop the link again, but I just posted it. I got you, my boy. Um, but yeah,
Now
nah, man.
here's a question for you now.
Yeah, what's good?
Now it can go a number of ways as far as how this draft is going to play out. Nobody really knows. Jacksonville can go Aiden Hutchinson. Uh, as far as that being a consensus number one, that's more than likely in the books as far as who can go number one in this draft. And everybody has pretty much put Aiden Hutchinson as number one. And everything else can play out in so many different ways.
Very
My
true.
question to you is, what do you think as far as getting that right tackle at 5 and entertaining a trade back at 7, knowing possibly Kayvon Thibodeau is there and you're going to pass on him? What do you do? That's also for the chat as well. If you pick up your right tackle, whether it's that's Equano, that's Neil, chances are Cross isn't going to go that high, but at least those two tackles right there. One of the two you've got. Kayvon is sitting pretty at number 7 because good chance that Carolina is going to go offensive tackle. You got Kayvon Thibodeau there at number 7.
Yeah, you
What
definitely
do you
pinned me
do?
to a corner, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that some people may not agree, but I'm not trading back. I know that the smart thing would be to trade back, so we could get more capital. We do have more holes on this team right now than we did last year. On top of that, they may look to want to collect capital for next year so that they can move up and take a quarterback if Jones isn't the answer. But I just think that if Kayvon is there, man, you can't unless you're going back literally like with Atlanta, because you're not that far off. I can't pass up on Kayvon. I can't, man. I mean, we haven't had a Batman of an edge rusher in so long. And in my opinion, I think that again, cornerback is going to be a need if we move off James Bradbury. I don't think that it's as big of a need as if our edge position at this moment. And in my opinion, I know that Wink prefers, corners than he does, edge rushers in his scheme. But I just think that Kayvon is a player that you cannot pass up on. I know some people may not agree, but I can't do it. What's
Well,
going
I
on,
mean,
Taj?
how's it going, Taj?
What's going on, Hit? What's going on, Rodney?
Hey, thanks for
Well,
stopping by.
here's the issue that I have right now. You got Kayvon sitting there at 7, and the likelihood of this playing out, I mean, it's a good possibility. Number 5 pick is worth 6.5 million to the cap. That number 7 pick is worth about 5 million to the cap. So you already got 11.5 million tied up in just 2 picks right there. At some point, if I'm Joe Shane and I'm looking at my big board and I'm seeing exactly what's going on as far as who's there, who do I have next up. As much as I like Kayvon Thibodeau, and trust me, I do, I'm gonna have to take a trade back. Now, how far do you trade back? That's the
Sheesh.
next
Yeah,
question.
it's a good
You
question.
know, that's the next question. How far do you trade back? If the Steelers are there and
Hmm.
they're sitting at number 20 and they're coming want to come up to get a quarterback, you trade back. Look what the Saints and the Eagles just did. They traded picks this year. So what if the Saints, I think they're
Yeah,
sitting at
I mean that's
16
true.
now.
Yeah,
What
the
if they
Saints don't
come
got a
along?
first rounder no more now for next year.
They got a first now. They got two first this year. Or is it next
No,
year?
I'm talking about next year. Like they don't
Yeah,
have a
next
first
year they
rounder for
don't have
next
one.
year.
Hmm.
Yeah, but they got two this year.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they got two this year.
All right.
I
So
mean, do they look to trade up then? To get their
e-
quarterback ahead of Carolina?
exactly. That's
Makes you
my thing.
think.
Is like,
I mean,
are
that's
you
your
willing?
division rival too.
Very
You're
true.
right. But the thing is, are you willing to take the chance on, you're passing on Kayvon Thibodeau to be able to get down to a lower lower half of the first round, which is a lot cheaper as far as what you can be able to do with the cap. Instead of you paying that $5 million, maybe it drops down to maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 million, maybe, and you're able to get more draft capital for for the next year.
Yeah. And
That's
oh yeah,
that's the
continue. I'm sorry.
question. That's
Yeah.
the main question is, if you have the opportunity, if you're Joe Shane, do you take it? Because they're going to be giving up the farm for that number 5 or that number 7 pick. More than likely, it's a number 7 pick.
I mean, if the Saints are going to look at the trade of seven, I mean, is it possible you get both of those first rounders? I mean, because I believe it's 16 and what, 18, 16 and 18 that they got. I'll double
Yes,
check on that
it's
right
16 and
now.
19.
Okay, 16 and 19. I mean, is that fair value to go up to seven? I think so. I mean, or if not, I mean, you got maybe 16, a second rounder if possible, but I don't think that they have a second rounder this year.
You got easy 3 in the back.
Yep,
No,
I got him right
I
here.
think they do have a second round. I'm not sure.
What's going on, Easy Three? Thanks for stopping
How's it
by,
going,
man.
man?
Hey, what's up, fellas? What's up, man?
Oh,
Yo,
how's
What's
it
Hey,
going?
going
love
just
this.
on?
Yo,
chilling, man.
love the stream, man. Love the stream. Always love tuning
Hey,
in to hear y'all speak, man.
hey, I
Yep.
appreciate that a lot, man. We gotta get you on one of these segments, man. And I'm glad that you could make it today, bro.
Man, my life. You see, even with my videos, they're spanning out like almost a week and a half, 2 weeks, man. It's
Hey,
crazy over here
but
on my end.
oh, believe me, I understand, man. I mean, same, dog. But how you been, man? You been good? Everything good with you?
Yeah, everything's good. Busy, but everything's good.
Hey,
Yo,
love to
it's a
hear it.
lot of it's a lot of talk in Giants world, man. A lot of
It
draft talk.
is.
Yep.
Now,
Yep. Well,
I
I'm gonna
just want to
pose it.
give. Oh, my bad.
No, no, I'm gonna pose a question to you that I posed to
Oh,
everybody on the panel in the chat.
all right.
Um, you got either Kwanu or you got Neil at number 5. You take your right tackle. You're at number 7.
Mm-hmm.
You're Joe Shane. You're on the clock. You got Kayvon Thibodeau sitting right there in either the Saints or the Steelers. Some team is calling you right now for that number 7 pick, and they're willing to give up the farm, and you got Kayvon. What are you doing as Joe Shane? What are you doing?
I'm taking Kayvon. I'm
All
taking
right,
Kayvon.
what's
It's
Thank you, dog. Thank you.
it'll be a tough decision for me, but the thing is, oh my god, the thing is, from where from from all the scouting that I've done with Kayvon Thibodeau, this guy, I'm saying it now, he mirrors Khalil Mack coming out of Buffalo. The same
I've heard
size,
that.
the same size. They have the same move sets, everything. And coming out this year,
Hmm.
Kayvon Thibodeau is the best pure pass rusher in this draft class. He would have been the best in. in last year's draft class. He probably would be the best in next year's draft class. We haven't even looked. But you have that opportunity to take that guy who can literally be that game changer. You have to take him. I mean, the picks, they're giving up the farm and everything. That's fine. But when you have that kind of guy that he can legitimately change that defense around, and we've seen how good he is at Oregon. Now we also seen that he does have injury history, and also um you kind of see sometimes he has a low motor, but you know that sometimes can deal with the coaching or just the challenges of what he's going through. But I just feel like you just have to take him. Like he's the guy that can fit perfectly into this defense and literally change it around. He'll probably have the same kind of impact that Michael Parsons had for the Cowboys.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, you and I both think the same way, man.
Yeah.
highlight Jonathan Studios at 531.
Mhm.
And this is the reason why I brought that up because,
Mhm.
thanks. Matter of fact, thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks for coming
Yep.
through.
And-
Coach Gladney, D Mac, Mark the Blue Giant. This is exactly the reason why I asked that question because, as you said, Wink does not use traditional edge rushers. He manufactures a pass rush. So the question is like, do you take Kayvon or because you're passing on future draft capital plus the draft capital you're getting for this year for one player? One player.
Yeah.
Now, don't
Yeah.
get me
That.
wrong. Kayvon
Yeah.
is good,
Mhm. Mhm.
but can you really truly pass up on all that draft capital to help this team get better quicker? Not only this year, but also helping out in next year. That's the thing.
Yeah, I would have to pass up on it because even though Wink Martindale does not, like you said, he does manufacture pressure. It's only just going to be a positive when you have that kind of talent, that type of pure pass rusher, and he's still manufacturing. Now he's just manufacturing because now Kayvon Thibodeau being on that defense, now we're going to really see Aziz Ojulari really go off. That's when Aziz will probably end up having like an 11 sack year, just because Kayvon is there and because of how the scheme is. And I mean, at the end of the day, as fans, we're not going to know any of the trade talks or anything. So we wouldn't know if a trade really did come through or blow the mind or anything. We're just speaking from it as from the GM, like trying to swallow, not taking that trade to take a player. But I'll take the player. I'll take the player in that case. I gotta
I
take the
mean,
player in that case.
and you know what? That's a question that a true Giants fan. That's something you're gonna have to ponder. As much
Mm,
it is.
Absolutely.
Everybody's gonna have a different take. Everybody. Is either you're sold on taking Kayvon there at 7 if he drops, or you're gonna welcome a trade back scenario because you're looking at what it can do as far as setting up the team for the future. So
yeah,
one way or the other, it's gonna catch 22. You're giving up something for something,
yeah,
pretty
that
much.
is true. I think, yeah, and I think also with us Giants fans, why a lot of people would probably take Kayvon is because we seen what happened when a a good pass rusher dropped to us, and we went the other way and we got Daniel Jones. When
Yeah. Josh
everybody
Allen.
wanted Josh Allen because we didn't expect him to drop, we thought that we can get Daniel Jones a little bit later, which we wouldn't have been able to get him because Denver was going to snatch him up.
Or
Or
But
Washington.
Washington.
Yep.
yeah, well, no, not so much because Daniel Snyder, he was sold on Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins that went to the same school as his son and everything like that. So it ran deep. Jay Gruden wanted Daniel Jones,
Jay Gruden,
but
yeah.
yeah, Jay Gruden wanted Daniel Jones, but the owner was like, "Nah, we're taking Haskins." But DJ wouldn't have lasted. But you seen how mad everybody was because we knew that we needed an edge. That pass rusher was there, and he dropped to us, and we didn't take him. So I mean, in this scenario, if that if that same scenario happens, I gotta take him.
Yeah.
But that's just
I'm
me.
there with
Like
you.
I said,
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, man. For me, I think that's a player that you can't pass up on. But let me get to this chat real quick. I'm a little behind, but I want to shout out a couple people that are in the chat. What's going on, Big Pat Sports? I appreciate you stopping by, brother.
Yeah.
Coach Ed, I appreciate you
Coach
stopping
Ed.
by. Peace and blessings, man. Big Blue City, he says, did you guys hear the Giants GM and 7 other people from the Giants organization went to have dinner with Kayvon Thibodeau? I'm telling you, man, they're very interested in this guy, man. And I really think that if he falls, he's not going to go past the Giants, man.
Nah,
He's
ain't
not
no
going to
way
go
in hell
past
he
the
get.
Giants, man.
Nah,
And if he does, I'll be shocked.
there's no way.
I'll literally be shocked. I'm telling you, dog. I just don't think that he's a player that you could pass up on. I know a lot of people want Sauce, but while I see the talent that's there, I'm not saying that he's a scrub or nothing. He's just not for me, man. I
Yeah,
actually prefer Stingley more, to be real with you.
yeah, I got a take on Sauce. I don't know where like Sauce Gardner came out of nowhere because well, not out of nowhere. He was still a top 5 cornerback in this draft, but he was ranked he was ranked around like number 4, number 3. I just don't know where everybody just started projecting him to the Giants, where at the beginning he wasn't even. I think he was going in like the mid rounds or something of that nature, and I mean, he's good. He's good in press, but he's not a man cover guy. He's a zone type guy. He's really good in zone. He has some pretty good pickup speed, but man cover, what Wink usually does, running cover 1, cover 2, he's not going to be good. He's not. Well, I'm not going to say he's not going to be good. He's not going to be that efficient because they're not using him to what his strengths are. I mean, he's good in press, but once you get him from that press, these wide receivers are bigger, stronger, and faster. They can get off of a press.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very true.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, hey, what's going on, NYG22? Tudo, thank you for stopping by. Jonathan Studios, thank you
NYG,
for stopping by.
Tudo.
Thank you guys. But no, you make a very good point there, Easy Three, and that's why for me, look, I understand why it would make sense to draft a corner, considering when you look at the scheme. But I just don't think that the secondary is as bad or lacks the talent that people think it does. Even if we do trade
no.
James Bradbury, I don't.
Well, what we also have to realize too is you don't need a lockdown secondary when you got a pretty good pass rush. I mean,
Mhm.
when we won the Super Bowls, I can guarantee you majority of the people can't even name the people who was in our secondary, but they can name everybody who was on the front 7. When you look at the 49ers last year, they dialed up a pass rush. Everybody sat back in zone. Their secondary isn't that good. When you have a good front 7, that secondary doesn't have to be locked down. It doesn't have to be the no fly zone with the Broncos, because you're developing that pressure. You're bringing pressure onto the quarterback, making them making those quick decisions and making them make mistakes. So the secondary isn't as needed to be locked down as some people may think.
Well,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
you make a great
Yeah.
point there, man.
well, like I said, I understand everybody's logic behind not passing on Kayvon Thibodeau. And you know what? You're right. It's a good chance that he could bring out a lot as far as Aziz, because if he garners that
Yeah.
attention, it
Mhm.
opens up a lot for not only Aziz, but for Leonard Williams as well. You
Yeah.
know, we have who's the guy that they just brought in? Is it Jihad Ward?
Jahan
Yes,
Ward.
sir.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, he's another defensive tackle that's there. I mean, I'm not sure if they want to consider him more of an edge or a DE or just a defensive tackle as a whole. But as far as I'm concerned, if you do bring in Kayvon, that makes that front a lot better. It really
Absolutely.
does.
Absolutely.
My only concern is what's going on with the secondary. That's going to always be my main concern, because no matter that, if they're able to game plan around that front 4, that front 5, the back half has got to hold up on its own. And we already know that Bradbury really isn't good in press coverage and man coverage. You're going to rely a lot on Adoree Jackson. You're going to rely a lot as far as Aaron Robinson is concerned as well. If we do go, decide to move on from Bradbury, Aaron Robinson would take over that role. You still need another lockdown corner. You need one.
So,
And with the reason why Sauce Gardner's, jumped up in as far as his stock
mm,
jumping up is because Stingley was injured and nobody knew the extent, and that was going to
mm,
be a big question as far as what's the deal with this foot injury, how is it going to influence, if it's going to hurt his draft stock, is it going to, whatever the case may be. That's why Sauce jumped up so much in the combine. He did an excellent job in the combine. So right now, a lot of it's going to have to be based on what Stingley does at his pro day. A lot of it.
Yeah.
That's going to
okay.
pretty much
Yeah.
basically decide whether or not Sauce goes first or Stingley goes first.
Yeah.
If
And
that's
again,
the
me
case.
personally, I prefer Stingley in my opinion. That's just me.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. So. Oh.
okay. So I'm going to bring it right back to that same question I asked before. Same thing, this is the same question to the chat. You got Stingley, you got Sauce, you got Kayvon. And they're there at number 7. What are you going to do? Because you got to be able to address a need. At this point, you have to address a need. Is it edge or is it at a quarterback position?
I'm
If Stingley
sorry.
doesn't go at the
Yeah.
top and he's sitting there right along with Sauce and Kayvon, what are you doing?
I gotta go
Well.
with Kayvon. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I guess.
I gotta
Yeah.
go with
But
Kayvon.
the real. Yeah. Well, like on top of
Yeah,
that question of what you
K-Ball.
just asked, you would have to look at, basically when we were going into last season, at the beginning of the season, did you feel as a fan that our secondary was going to be the strength of our defense?
Yeah.
Okay,
I actually
so
thought the secondary was the strength. When you looked at how the offense, well, we're not even going to talk about the offense, so let's get off of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
As far as the defense is concerned, I mean, based off of what I saw as far as the linebackers to the secondary, that front
Okay.
four, no, because you had
Yeah,
Daniel Shelton there, and I knew right off the bat he
yeah,
wasn't going to do nothing.
I got you.
But
So
the
now, yeah, so
secondary,
now, so now the question is how much did we really lose from last year's secondary to this year's secondary?
who did we
And
lose?
then,
We lost.
uh,
Rodarius, I mean, but that's what the ACL. We're not gonna know he's gonna come back this season.
yeah, no,
Um,
not from injury, but like who's not going to be on this team next year. I think is what Julius
maybe
Peppers. Then we're looking at James
Logan
Bradbury,
Ryan, James
Logan Ryan,
Bradbury.
who is playing very bad anyway.
Yep, and I've been a proponent of saying, I really want to see Julian Love get more time. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and be, your starter going forward, but give him a year of starting, because I think that he's a player that
mm,
he's been the perfect band-aid in our defense. You need him to play outside, inside, either safety positions. I mean, he's been able to
He's
get it done.
versatile.
yeah,
Exactly, Taj. Exactly. So I mean, I definitely want to see what Julian does. But and look, this is what I'm gonna say for Kayvon. I think that not only does Kayvon make Aziz better, I think that he helps Leonard Williams, who gets constantly double teamed. I think that's also gonna help a player like Dexter Lawrence, who I'm not personally the biggest fan of Dexter Lawrence. I don't even think that they pick up his 5th-year option, but I think that it would help Dexter Lawrence a little bit as well, because I think that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be a guy going forward that, I mean, if he can have the production that he had in college and have that translate to the NFL, which I think it's possible, and I think we can all say that this kid's a beast, but I just think that he makes the people around him better, and I think that he's going to be
yeah,
a player that could get double teamed going forward. So I mean,
yeah.
he's only going to help out your players on that line.
But let's just look at it this way. Like you posed the question: if Kayvon, Stingley, and Gardner, if they're all on the board, who do you go with? And let's just say we got rid of James Bradbury, but then we have to look at what kind of impact will that player bring. If we felt like that the secondary last year was the strength of our defense and we didn't have no pass rushing, you seen what continuously kept on happening. Our
Mhm.
secondary was good, but it couldn't hold up simply because we didn't have a pass rush. If we're drafting Stingley or Gardner, and let's just say that they are locked down corners, let's say that they are doing their thing, but we still can't generate a pass rush, the defense is not going to hold up.
Yep. You make a great point. And we tried, look, we tried being a man defense in the beginning of last year. We couldn't get to the quarterback. We were
Yeah,
sending blitzes and still couldn't get to the quarterback.
yeah. So I mean, when we're looking at who you're going to draft, you got to see what kind of impact are they going to actually bring to the entire defense opposed to just that one spot. Because even if we get a lockdown corner, let's just say one of these guys is like a Jalen Ramsey, taking away their first option, but there's absolutely no pass rush. When guys cannot cover for 3, 4, 5 seconds, no matter how good you are. So yeah, we need this pass rush because we have absolutely nothing. But yeah, but fellas, hit squad, Rodney, all you guys, man. I love the stream. Keep it going. I gotta get my daughter upstairs. As you can hear, she's cooking for me.
Not
But
not a
Right.
problem, man. I appreciate you stopping by. And
yeah,
again, we gotta get you on one of these panels, man, so that we could talk game, man. Because and especially on Giants and Friends, I gotta get you on a segment for there. But
all
if anything, send me your email or something, and we could get that shit situated.
right, all right, I got you, man.
All right,
All right,
bet,
thanks,
bro.
guys.
Be
All right,
easy, man.
all right.
Um, but no, I mean, look, I think that he makes a really good point because if we could get to the QB, I think that's going to help our secondary. Right now, with the players that we have, and again, look, if we pick up an edge rusher in the second round, I mean, I think it's going to be a Robin situation, kind of like with the Zizo Jalari. At that point, maybe you have a nice rotation where it's kind of like a next man up mentality, kind of like what we've had in recent years with the solid rotation at the defensive line. But I just personally think that we need that dominant edge rusher coming off the
That
ball.
dog, man.
Exactly, Taj. And look, I won't be upset if they take a cornerback. I really won't. But for me personally, and that's why I highlighted this. It's gonna have to be a good trade for me to be like, all right, I'm gonna bite the bullet
Yeah,
on
yeah,
passing
we
up on a.
better. Hmm.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I was just saying, it's got to be a good enough trade for me to say to myself, okay, this is going to be another defensive stud that we're going to be passing up on 2 years in a row. Last year with Michael Parsons, this year possibly with Kayvon Thibodeau. It's got to be a good enough trade for me to be like, all right, I don't
yeah,
have a problem with that. So that's why I was saying earlier. I mean, if a team like the Saints wants to trade up to 5, or let's say they want to trade up to 7, I mean, are they willing to trade, both of those first rounders to move up? Because I think that might be what it's going to take to move up that far, in my opinion. I mean, and I think that it's possible you could get both of those picks.
I mean, at some point, like I said, the reason why I brought that up is because one, you got to look at as far as what our draft capital is going to be. What is it going to look like? How much we're going to have as far as cap space. Two, again, with the scenario as far as the needs that this team has, I mean, we can all agree that there's a good, we're going to be competitive, but maybe the record isn't going to literally reflect that. This is pretty much rebuild. We're still going to be competitive, but it's a rebuild, plain and simple. Do you literally take the chance, of passing on a premier edge rusher like Kayvon Thibodeau, and you address the needs that you have on our team? Because understand something. Say the Saints come calling now,
Yeah.
unless we dropped. Well, again, we may or may not drop down too far. Who knows? But if the Saints are sitting there, what, at 16,
16
there's a
and
good.
19. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that we can get a Jermaine Johnson. We can possibly get a Trayvon Walker if he's there. I mean, you have to look at it. Okay, yes, Kayvon is that first tier pass, edge rusher, but who else do they have on their big board? Karloftis is there. You got Jermaine Johnson, Trayvon Walker. I mean, David Ajabo when if he when he was there without the injury, but I mean at this point, like I said, I'm looking at it from the scenario of, do you address your one way or the other? You're addressing the needs, but do you do it at the expense of getting additional draft capital? That's the big question. Do you pass up on Kayvon for that draft capital? Do you take Kayvon and pass up on that additional draft cap? Because you know what? I'm all for a trade back so I can get me an extra second round this year. I want a second round pick this year.
I mean, it would
Two
be
firsts,
nice.
2 seconds, 2 thirds. I mean, can you really pass it? Because you're able to address just about everything that's possible if you have that additional second round pick. And that's my main thing. You may have to drop down a little further, but you're being able, you're setting yourself up for not only this year, but for next year as well. And you're passing on Kayvon. That's the thing.
Yeah, and look again, it's got to be a good enough trade for me to consider, moving out of that seventh pick. I mean, if you're gonna move, let's say lowest you're going is maybe 10, let's say 9, I don't have a problem with that. It's just when you're talking about the later teens, I mean, there's no guarantee that even a player like Johnson may be there at that point. A team
Exactly.
may look to pick him up, or even like Karlofkis, and then what do you do at that point? You look at a player like Devin Lloyd. Do you look to maybe go the Stingley route? Do you maybe look to get Kyle Hamilton if he falls out of the top 10? I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I mean, I don't think that it would be a bad idea either way, to accept the draft capital because look, we need as much capital as we can get. We're going to need some linebackers. We're going to need some tight ends, some wide receivers, some cornerback help. We do need some
Yeah.
safety help a little bit. You know, it's going to be very interesting. But for me, it's got to be a good enough trade, for me to pass up on another defensive stud like Kayvon. Because as much as I like Jermaine Johnson, I mean, I would personally take Kayvon over Jermaine Johnson, even though Jermaine Johnson had a very good year at FSU.
Oh yeah. Highlight Coach Edney's Coach Ed Gladney. I'm sorry. At 550, he said each phases helps the other phase better their play. Good secondaries can help a pass rush and vice versa. Ultimately, it's which impact has a greater effect. Now, this is also what Easy Three was saying as well. If you get Kayvon, he helps out and makes Aziz better, makes Leonard Williams better because now that's one more person that you got to be accountable for in that field in that front four, front five. So getting Kayvon will definitely make that front four, front five better because you have to be able to address each of those guys that's rushing the quarterback.
Yeah,
The other thing that you have to understand is if that secondary is good, then you don't necessarily have to have again a premier edge rusher because the pressure that's coming to that the pressure that's coming getting to that quarterback. If those cornerbacks back there if they're doing their job and they're locking everything down, what does the quarterback have to do at this point? He can dump it out on the screen or dump it out to a running back, but chances are he's going to be running for his life because of what's going on with our secondary. So one, I get what Coach Gladney is saying. Each phase helps out each other, but
yeah.
what do they want as far as the Giants is concerned? Which phase are they going to prioritize more? That secondary or that pass rush?
Exactly. And at this point, I mean, you can make a very good argument that they may prefer to attack the secondary. I mean, when you just not let's not even just look at Wake Martindale. When you look at how the Bills built their defense, I mean, they focused on their secondary. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they were to take a player like Sauce, or let's say they traded back and they picked up a player like Stingley. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, because at the same time, I mean, Wink does very much value his cornerbacks. I mean, it's just going to come down to what do the Giants think, and again, it's got to be a good enough trade for me to move out of that top seven. I wanted to go back to this comment. MYG22 says, I'd rather attack the trenches this draft. Just keep Bradbury and work on the front seven this draft. Edge, linebacker, and D line. I mean, I agree with you there, NYG22. I think that we will, pick up an edge rusher and a linebacker early in this year's draft. I
Mhm.
could potentially see us getting a linebacker in the second round as well. Tudo says everyone should know all of these season signings are depth insurance policies, and most of them won't even make the roster before the season. We do have some flea market shopping lists in rugby. Hey, look. I mean, I think that some of the signings were definitely, depth signings, but I think players like Mark Lewinsky, John Feliciano, maybe what was his name, Garcia from the Cardinals. I mean, I think those are starters. And I think that those signings were very telling to, where the Giants were going to go in this draft. I think that, we can pretty much pencil in that we're going to take one of these offensive tackles. And, right now, an offensive guard, I mean, if a player like Zion Johnson falls in the second round, I don't think you could pass up on him. I think that would be a dream scenario. But in the second round, I think they could go a variety of different ways. So some of these players are definitely, I agree with you, Tudo. Insurance policies. Hopefully, we don't have any players retire like they did last year on us. DMAC Warrior says, I just
Hmm.
don't think we can afford to pass on a player like Kayvon. Likewise, man. Coach Ed says the draft value chart says 5 is valued at 1,700 and 7 is valued at 1,500. The 16 is valued at 1,000 and 18 is valued at 875. To get those two picks will cost 5 and maybe a 6 rounder. If it's 7, then it'll cost a third. I mean, I wouldn't honestly, if you're telling me that we could get 2 first round picks from the Saints and we give up one of those third rounders that we have because we have two, sign me up. Sign me up because I think that where the Saints are picking at 16 and 19, I believe. Actually, I have it pulled up here. I wanted to make sure I had the specifics, but I have it pulled up here. So the Saints received, 16th and the 16 and 19. So I mean, if you're telling me that we could get 16 and 19 and we could still get a premier tackle at 5, I mean, whew, I think you're talking about a fleece, in my opinion, because there, you could pick up a player like Stingley. You get your guy in the secondary. You could possibly pick up a player like Jermaine Johnson, or you can maybe go the linebacker route and pick up a player like Devin Lloyd. I
Devin
mean,
Lloyd.
it's going to be very interesting, and that's why I tweeted this earlier. I need the draft to come like right now. Pause. But I need the draft to be here because like I need it, dog. Like I need the draft to be here, man, because it's gonna be so much fun and it's gonna be such a crazy night. We are gonna do a stream that night on the draft. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to have you guys there. But now that we've spoken about the draft, I want to talk about the OTAs today. We saw some pretty nice clips of the guys in the gym. It was nice to see Sterling Shepard in the building. Taj, to your point, I don't know why the hell Aziz was wearing Adidas track pants with the Nike Tech fleece jacket.
Disrespect,
Like,
man. Yo, Aziz is so disrespectful,
bro,
man.
like you do where I come from, you do not mix those two together.
Yeah, you don't
It's
know
either
you
one or
you
the
don't
other.
do it.
Hey,
Exactly.
hey,
You just
come on
don't
now.
do
Maybe
it.
he's pandering for an endorsement deal with either Nike or Adidas. Come on now.
Oh,
That's
okay.
today.
I
Hey,
mean, shit.
Come on.
When you put it that way, it's like, all right. But nah, man, you looking crazy out here.
yeah, man, you
But
can't. Nah, bro, you breaking the
nah,
rules,
That's
man.
smart.
You
That's
breaking the
smart.
rules.
That's smart. Okay. He's promoting
it,
him.
it
He's promoting
is.
himself. Come on now. He's
Nah,
promoting himself.
it
If
is.
I'm Nike and I'm seeing Aziz right now and say, you know what, let me give Aziz a call. Let me find out before Adidas gets a hold of him. He's promoting himself, and I like it.
And then I
And,
wear
and look, I
Adidas
get it.
socks. Then I wear Adidas socks with Jordans on. Then
Hey,
nah. Then that would be
Yeah, nah.
that would be on some other shit.
I mean, look, I'm just excited to have the guys back in the building. I mean, if you were one of the 7 teams that had a new head coach, I mean, you were able to start today with the OTAs. And there were some takeaways, from today. And I'm going to read some quotes from Dan Duggan regarding certain players. But I want to talk about mine and Taj's guy, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones came out and said in terms of his neck, he is cleared, or excuse me, he will be cleared, and he will be ready to go. So it's nice to see, that the neck is okay. It's nice to see that we're going to be able to have him back with no limitations, hopefully. Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
Daniel Jones looked pretty good. He looked like he put on a little bit more weight, so I mean, we'll see how that translates as well. Another player that's
He's
worth
looking for a
noting is
thumbnail.
exactly, yeah, exactly. Um, and look, another player to mention is Xavier McKinney. You know, Xavier McKinney stated that it feels like he's been in the NFL for 6 years with all that's happened in his career, and I think
Yeah,
that's very fair to say.
I
I,
love it,
I
man.
I think it's very
That
fair to
boy
say.
X.
Let me tell you something. If there's one player I'm excited for to see on this defense, it's really Xavier McKinney. I think that he's going to become a staple in this defense. I think that he's going to be the face of this defense. Even if we draft a player like Kayvon, until Kayvon comes into his own, and he becomes that captain, I think that Xavier McKinney, he could come in and be that leader for us. In my opinion, I think he deserves that captain's patch. I mean, he's been the bright spot
Oh
to
yeah,
our
he definitely
defense.
do. He does. Well, I
I
Um,
hope
mean,
he
it's a
gets
good
it,
chance.
man.
Yeah, I hope he does get it. He look. We can honestly sit there and say that what he had a breakout season last year, a breakout
Absolutely.
season. That was pretty much his rookie season last year because he was hurt his actual rookie season. So, I mean, I see nothing but big things as far as what this kid can do, and as long as we build around him, get this kid as much help as possible, so this guy can flourish. And I think he will definitely flourish in Wink's system. I really,
Hell
really
Oh,
think
yeah,
that.
man.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I mean, if there's a scenario where the Giants take a player like Kyle Hamilton, let's say they trade back and take him, I mean, I think you're talking about, if not the best safety duo in the league, I'd say top three. I think that those two would really benefit each other, and I think that this kid is primed for a very solid season this year. And I'm very excited to see how he pans out. But let's get to a couple of these comments. Blue City Empire Sports says, breaking news: Netflix and Sony are no longer working with Will Smith, and Bad Boys 4 has been put on pause
Wow.
for further notice. Yeah,
Wow.
I heard about that, man. I mean, hopefully,
Wow.
they can continue it soon, and I definitely don't want to see Will get blackballed. I don't think that he was necessarily wrong. Tudo
That damn
says,
slap.
Hit Squad, it's midnight here, and our entire team's watching this awesome Giants live TV show with Brother Taj. Great discussion, and coaches are taking notes. LOL, very much appreciated. Hey,
Shout out to
Tudo,
Tudo,
I
man.
Tudo.
I
Shout out
appreciate
to
the
Tudo,
kind
man.
words, man. I really, really do, man. And I hope you guys are enjoying the show. And I appreciate you guys again for stopping by. But with OTAs, I mean, look. So how the schedule breaks down is today was the first day, but voluntary minicamp is going to be from April 19th through the 21st. Then you have the OTA off-season workouts, which is May 16th through the 17th, May 19th, the 23rd through the 24th, the 26th, and then May 3rd through June 3rd. And then you have mandatory minicamp, which is from June 7th to the 9th. But,
Mhm.
I mean, I know that, that's a little bit away, but I'm very excited. I mean, as much as I love the off season, I mean, I'm more of an in season guy. I love when football's here, and I'm really excited, man. But again, I need the draft to be here like tomorrow. I'm
For
really
real.
excited, man, and it's going to be very interesting, and it's going to be a crazy night. Now, Shane also said that Blake Martinez is ahead of is ahead of schedule in terms of his recovery. Same with Sterling Shepard on the rehab schedules based on the timing of their injuries. Shane also said that the goal is for both of them to be on the field by August. And that's very nice to hear. It's really nice to hear. And, hopefully, we could see these guys on the field. I really want to see, Blake Martinez come out there and shine. I thought that, when he went down, I mean, that put a big hole in our linebacking core last year. I mean, Jalen Smith looked all right. Tay Crowder, he's nice, but I mean, that's not your number one that you want to rely on. But, hopefully Martinez can come back and, play solid for us. Um, Now, I know Dan Dugan stated that players have protection up to 2 million if they're cut and miss the following season due to injury. And this is in regards to Nick Gates. And he states that that's a real possibility with Nick Gates, and that 2 million is equal to his salary. So there's really no savings with that. Now, in my opinion, I think that there are going to be some little contracts that get cut. I think Nick Gates could be one. I think Darius Slayton could be another one. Maybe a team like New England looks to trade for him. But the Giants are going to have to do some work to get that cap to where they need it to be. I think that we could expect another restructure to happen on one of these big contracts that we have, and again some
Like
minor cuts.
Williams.
Exactly, and again, to go back to your point, Rod. I mean, it definitely makes you consider wanting to trade back because you'll save some capital in that respect right there. So, it's going to be very interesting, man. But look, guys, I mean, we're gonna end the show here. I'm very pumped to have you guys here with us. This was a great episode. You guys can find again Big Blue Corner and Giant Opinion Sports channels in the bio below. I appreciate every single one of you guys that came out to the show today. It was so much fun. Big Blue Corner, you got anything else you want to say to the people?
Oh man, thanks for everybody chiming in, everybody that's participating in the chat. Thank you guys. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Got more coming, so please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Look out for whatever videos is being dropped. Always thank you for supporting us, man. We appreciate it.
Likewise, man. Thank you guys for stopping by, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.